Great, thanks, Patricia. Good evening. My question is for the panel. I'm part of the dying breed of people that's lived a large chunk of their lives without technology. As such, I feel a responsibility to protect our younger persons from harm caused by tech companies. I believe we need to promote critical thinking, sport and creativity in the school system and in the wider population. Would you agree with this? And can you please offer some of your suggestions around important actions that need to prevent this harm? Thank you.
Jane, you're concerned about the impact that social media is essentially having on young people.
Yeah,
What do you think?
absolutely.
What do you think it's doing to young people?
Well, as a sociologist and a parent of 8 children, my husband and I have 8 children, ranging from 35 down to 18. We've seen firsthand some harm that can be done, and that is the dopamine that can be released. You know, for younger persons, it's very hard for them to get off the technology. We have cyberbullying. We have the people competing amongst other people on Facebook, and that leads to depression and anxiety. And we have a whole range of issues that are really confronting us, and we need to really, as a society, step up and say, we need to really protect our younger persons, and that's what we feel strongly, my husband and myself, and many other people.
So taking it to the panel, Jacqui, how do you even start to deal with so many layers of issues?
Well, all the schools around Australia can start making them put their phones in their bags first thing in the morning. They're not allowed to bring them out to the afternoon. We all went through school without phones. I think, you know, that would give them a good 8 hours off for the day. That'd be a good start. But you are right. The addiction, I mean, parents out there wrote about alcohol and drug abuse and addiction. I tell you what, watch your kids with tech, because they are getting addicted. They're staying up late of a night time. They're not going to school. This is the next generation of addiction. I'm very grateful. I'm a little bit like you. My boys are a little bit older. They missed all that. So the only thing they use, they have a phone for phone calls and texting. But these younger kids out there, some of those horrific stories that I'm hearing and what they're going through, and it is an addiction. You can see them, it takes 2 or 3 days. It's no different to watching them come off drugs or alcohol. I kid you not. I've watched this recently, and watching these, the performance, you know, this is how bad they're getting. They are putting holes in walls, the same as drugs and alcohol. They are hitting their parents. This is the addiction. This is tech addiction. This is real. This is what it's doing to these young kids.
I think that lots of people have anecdotal evidence for the way it's impacting their families, for sure. But how do you deal with it at a regulatory or you know, real level to try and stop it? I mean, it seems like it's just story after story of parents frustrated. What do you do?
I think that it is largely up to parents, and if we could get schools to do more, because the tech companies themselves aren't doing it, and we know that the algorithms are feeding different kinds of content to kids in different countries. I mean, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and so I know how much time she's on her phone, but I also know, thank goodness, that she and some of her friends are aware of the dangers, and they're aware of what it can do to some of their friends. They launched a podcast. I watched one of the episodes that she and 2 other girls recorded really recently, where they're talking, the whole episode was about social media and the downsides of social media. So I'm glad that they'll talk to one another about it. I think it probably doesn't happen nearly as often as we'd like, but the onus is on us for the moment.
Ed?
It's certainly, and picking up on a point that Joe raised earlier around the online harms movement in the US, it's certainly been something that we've focused on. My colleague Michelle Rowland is starting to lead that work on developing a response on those issues so that we can hold some of these firms to account, because they do need to be held to account if they're, in particular, shaping algorithms in ways that are leading people, similar to what Stephanie just mentioned, in terms of the content that's coming forward and just continuing to do that. We've seen that in other platforms as well. YouTube, for example, had big issues a few years ago and had to be pressured to take that seriously in terms of the way its algorithm was feeding up content that was extremist in nature. And I think there's going to have to be a similar sort of thing that will happen with social media as well, to be, you know, part of that, being accountable and solving this issue.
Okay, provocative question, but Joe, are we too late?
Yes.
Like, it feels like we're too late.
Yes.
Have you tried to take a phone off a teenager?
I have not.
I wish you luck.
Yeah. No, the genie's out of the bottle. We do have to be realistic about that. There is no going back to the days of so you got to work with it.
So what do?
Well,
You tax them.
no. The taxation is not going to solve this problem.
No, it's not.
But one thing you could do is you could school kids to create their own algorithms on the basis of their own principles and values. So, to create their own algorithm communities outside of Facebook, outside of the big tech companies, whose algorithms, the algorithm itself is not the problem, but an algorithm that has been created in order to create hatred and to create addiction, that is the problem. So it's a question of property rights. Who owns the algorithm? Imagine you had, the local library together with local schools saying, okay, here's a project. We'll create our own algorithm for discussing amongst ourselves and picking topics and highlighting them in a way that we collectively have agreed that is the right way of communicating. But Patricia, allow me to bring another dimension which concerns me regarding young people. The death of the liberal individual, of the autonomous person. I have noticed in universities and talking to young people over the last few years that because, think of Google, right? All those, all singing, all dancing, big tech companies in Silicon Valley. You go in there, they have very pleasant architecture, they have ping pong tables. It's very appealing to young people, and they all want a job there because these are the good jobs, not the BS jobs. Now, just looking at my daughter, when she was 16, 17, I could see that subconsciously, she, her friends, were very worried about what they were uploading on TikTok, on Snapchat and all that, because they knew, deep down, subconsciously, that one day, when they go for a job interview, some bot, or maybe a person that resembles a bot, is going to interview them after having checked all their online history. So there is no separation like we used to have between work and play, between messing around and doing things that will come to haunt you during job interviews. That, for me, is just a machine creating angst amongst the young regarding their future. And that is something that we should tackle.